Good evening and happy Sunday, everybody. It is the last Sunday of the liturgical year. Next Sunday will begin for us the season of Advent, which is the first Sunday of the liturgical year. So next week we'll be celebrating the liturgical New Year, and I'm sure you'll all be very excited for that. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about a discovery I made this morning at breakfast. And it all started when Hornbacher's, the local grocery store chain, uh, doesn't stock whey protein powder. That's just annoying, right? So, part of one of my job benefits as a priest is that the church will pay for my groceries. We've got a grocery card to Hornbacher's. I thought this was just going to be so slick and easy. Just go there, get my protein powder so I can, be really muscular or whatever. And this was all going to be great. But no, no protein powder there. So we've got a woman who does most of the shopping and the cooking, cooks us 1 or 2 meals a week. Um, and I thought, well, she's got to have a Costco card, right? Of course, she has a Costco card. So I'm like, hey, when you're at Costco, can you pick me up some protein powder? And she was like, sure, sure, I can go ahead and do that. And she texted me a picture of the protein powder. It's like, is this what you want? And I said yes. I said yes. I gave her the confirmation. Go ahead and buy it. And um, and so this is all on me. And I finally used up the last of my whey protein powder yesterday, and I moved on to the new protein powder from Costco today. And yeah, it was pretty special. It was organic, plant-based protein powder, and it tasted kind of bad. Now, initially, I had mixed it up with 12 ounces of milk just to make sure it wasn't vegan anymore. No, I mixed it up with 8 ounces of milk, and it tasted really bad. And then I look at the packaging, it says it should be mixed with 12 ounces of fluid, and so I put some more milk in my cereal bowl, and then it tasted less bad, but it still really, really didn't taste very good at all. And so my first thought was, what any rational, normal, and sane human being would do is like, I'm just going to throw this stuff out and go to Walmart and get protein powder like I had previously. Um, but then I had a thought. I had a thought, and I thought back to conversation I had on this very live stream with Adam, Adam from Ireland, on Wednesday. Adam, being from Ireland, he can't make it most weeks, but I had this midweek stream that you might have caught, and he was talking about the desire to bulk up himself while also doing penance. And I had this vision. It's like, oh, maybe we can turn the fact that this plant-based protein powder tastes bad into a into a plus. We could turn this into a penitential breakfast shake rather than seeing this as a bad thing. Maybe this can actually be a good thing. So I think that's going to be my plan. I think I'm going to go buy a tub of regular protein powder, um, and I will keep this plant-based protein powder uh, as a Wednesday and Friday thing that I'll do to do a little bit of extra penance with my bulking. So, so that's what I came up with. So somebody make sure Adam sees this so he can go, buy plant-based protein powder himself and join me in the world of penitential bulking, which I just invented, as far as I know. So I hope everybody, all of my fellow Americans, had a good Thanksgiving. My mom made 4 pies, so obviously that's a great Thanksgiving for me. My new brother-in-law apparently is a fan of blueberry, and so my mom, for the first time ever, made a blueberry pie. So apparently, my mom is a fan of the new brother-in-law. So very good. Uh, Protein powder. Yeah, Costco will take back anything and refund you with no issues, even if you've used most of it already. Tempting, but I need to be able to do penance instead. And Philip Nickerson, you have to mix it with Fruit Loop milk. I don't know. Is that a Canadian thing? Never heard of Fruit Loop milk before. Usually, my breakfast cereals are plain shredded wheat uh, for its health benefits. And if you Catholics out there should have had some pretty apocalyptic readings today at Mass. For the ordinary form, it would have been the Last Judgment, sheep on the right, goats on the left. And in the Usis Antiquior, the extraordinary form, the traditional Latin Mass, it was kind of the apocalyptic prophecy over Jerusalem. So that's what I ended up preaching on today. And next week, we start with the purple. Next week, we start with the purple. Yeah. Costco also had non-fat Greek yogurt that is high in protein. Oh, I'll have to keep that in mind. That could be a good option. What else is going on? Yeah, there's a funeral for a priest tomorrow. Father Al Bitz. He was about 80 years old. He, yeah, I don't know. Everybody had good things to say about him. So we will go ahead and uh, yeah, 1943 to 2023, and yeah, tomorrow 11 a.m. in St. Phil's Mary Church in Napoleon. So we will drive out there tomorrow. Napoleon's about a 2 hour and 15-minute drive. Uh, I'm back. North Dakota has frozen. Well, while that may be true, I'm not frozen enough, and I have come back. I've returned at the turn of the tide. Sorry about that. Yeah, 100%. It was the vegans. The vegans, and they're definitely not my VPN acting up. All right, so I've run out of what I was planning on talking about. So what do you guys want to talk about? I all I had was the protein powder. It was the only thing I planned. Snow fell this morning. Began late in the night. Not sure how much we got. It was a decent snowfall though, enough where I actually had to get the shovel out. Guys can. Oh, Andrew's getting baptized on December 16th. Very cool. So congratulations. Why don't you drop your confirmation saint in the chat here so we can all ask his or her intercession for you on your baptism day. So very cool. Very cool. Yeah, just under an inch of snow here in Fargo, and we're gonna have a little bit of cold weather tomorrow, and then things will warm up a little bit. It'll be over freezing, daytime's highs. So, in case you're wondering what was going on in North Dakota, Sandy just finished work and it's raining slush. Yeah, pretty gross. That's time of year though. You're gonna get slush. Okay, don't have one yet. The father's been sparse with details. Still trying to confirm whether or not my father-in-law is going to be my godfather. Okay, well, you've got a little bit of time to figure that out. Any recommendations? I could certainly say that Saint Eric of Sweden. You know, he's one of the greats, so you could go with him. Um, Actually, when I was doing RCIA last year, um, I found this quiz you could take. Yeah, I'll drop this in the chat here. What saint should you choose for confirmation? And it was really funny. We had I think we had 14 candidates and 2 catechumens come into the church on Easter last year. And all of the 14 candidates, they had been baptized in some other church. Um, they all picked pretty standard, saint names. And then my two people who were baptized, they somehow found these saints that I'd never heard of. One of them was an electrician, and he picked Saint Eligius, who's like a 6th century craftsman, and he's the patron saint of craftsmen. And the second guy picked Saint Devasahayim Pillai, who was a 19th century or 18th century Hindu man who converted to Catholicism, was martyred. And it's like, where did you guys find these saints? I mean, they're cool, right? They're all canonized saints. They're all right there for you. But yeah, Saint Philip Saint Philip Nickerson is recommending Saint Philip Neri here, the Apostle of Joy. And I believe Andrew is living in. Are you the Andrew that's in Korea? You could always go with the Korean martyrs. There aren't any bad choices. Yeah, Andrew Kim Taigon and companions. You could choose Saint Andrew Kim Taigon. Oh, Saint Barbara. Yeah, that'd be a good one. I wonder how she became the patron saint of artillery. Uh, yes, yes. Our friend Andrew B is getting baptized and confirmed and receiving his first Holy Communion here soon, and so we're trying to find him a confirmation saint. So yeah, I go Saint Barbara. I go with Saint Andrew Kim, Saint Philip Neri, Saint Eric of Sweden. Uh, hard to go wrong. Hard to go wrong. If you've got any other recommendations for Andrew for his confirmation's sake, go ahead and drop that in the chat. And I do believe that I did post the link, so one of you should jump in here. Also, there's no, Laura chose St. Clair. There's no rule that you have to have the same gender as your confirmation saint. They're a spiritual patron. So if you wanted to have a girl as your saint, there's no rule against that. Saint Genesius, very good. Moses is a great saint. You could do that. There'd be zero problems with choosing Moses as your confirmation saint. Mark wants me to say something about the utility of the saints in Catholicism. So I guess we could look at two things. The first utility that they have for us is uh, their intercession for us in heaven, in the heavenly court, that they bring our prayers before the throne of the Father and offer them there. And since they were known to be friends of Christ and his Father while on earth, we certainly think that their patronage would continue in heaven. And the saints give us the story of Christ in, tens of thousands of different ways, breaking it up into smaller pieces, so like a prism, breaking up pure white light into many, many colors, such that we can see different aspects of the Christian story shining out through each and every single one of them. And then also, the saints have a great amount of utility while they're here on earth, while they're polishing their halos, you could say, in that they do great things for God and the church, glorify Him, and bring people to Christ while they are here on earth. So that's three great things that the saints do. And so I am a saint fan. I recommend the saints. And yeah, we can ask for their intercession and all sorts of things. Not just Saint Anthony when you lose your car keys. And you can always add patrons as you go on. You're not stuck with your confirmation saint. So I chose Saint Francis of Assisi as my confirmation saint, but I've kind of along the way added Saint Augustine and Saint John Vianney to the thing. Quiz gave you Saint Joan of Arc. She's she's awesome. Like, no complaints from me. I wouldn't object to that at all. You choosing that one. God even loves the French, huh? Very fractal. Much fractal, yes. Yeah, well, he's like my teacher. He's not like a patron. St. Thomas Aquinas. I do end up talking about him the most. I don't know. Maybe I'll just add him onto the list. We can have four. There's no reason why you can't have four. Should add, the Augustine and the Aquinas just to fill out the whole of all theology ever, because they both took care of it. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah, we'll just add Aquinas on there. I talk about him all the time. You may as well get the honor due to him. See, that's how easy it is, Jacob. You can just add another patron. I shake my head. The local parish has mass at 7 p.m. on Sundays. That's why I can't pray in the sanctuary right now. How inconsiderate. Joke's on you, Charlie. The mass is a prayer. It's actually the best possible prayer. It's actually, there's no higher prayer than the holy sacrifice of the Mass, whereby Jesus himself offers up the perfect oblation in the sight of the Father, and we join him in his perfect eternal worship. So, there, go in there and pray, Charlie. Yeah, but you weren't expecting that. It's actually a pretty easy to expect answer. Don't I at least have to buy an icon for my icon corner? No, I don't. I could. Maybe I should. I don't have an Augustine. I don't have a St. Francis. I only have a St. John Vianney. And Our Lady watching everything that I do on the internet. So, also from that angle as well. And St. Hubert's on the calendar right now. So, yeah, no, you don't have to, being a Christian, the elites don't want you to know this, but being a Christian's free. What area of canon law do you find the most interesting? Right now it's the papacy. I do the canon. I think I'm going to end up writing my JCL thesis on the papacy, and so I wrote a little paper, just a little 1,600 word paper this semester. Um, yeah, on the papacy, just a tiny little research paper, and I thought it was very interesting how right around the ninth and the 10th centuries, the popes start citing forged documents to bolster their authority, which I don't think they had to do. And they didn't know they were forged either. They weren't very good at detecting forgeries in the Middle Ages, but they would start citing things like the donation of Constantine and the pseudo Isidorian decretals, um, decretals of pseudo Sylvester, and another pseudo synod. Uh, and a lot of that got taken up into the medieval golden age of canon law, as they call it. Gratian's decretal came out in 1234. Um, or was it 1134? I really need to have that down cold. Anyway, yeah, a lot of that stuff that came from forged documents ended up being there. So, yeah, the papacy is what I find most interesting, and maybe I'll continue to find interesting things. It's really sad that the chapel at the convent where I'm interning is always empty. Nobody ever goes there. It's a great place for Charlie to go. He can go there and be the one to pray in there. If a recent Christian concert asked you advice about spiritual maturity, what advice would you give? I would need to know the person a little better to actually give really in-depth advice, but I would say that is primarily a work of God that you are cooperating in, not something that you have to accomplish according to your own work and according to your own power. So, what I would say is just try not to worry about it so much. If you're uh, going to church, if you're saying your prayers, if you're trying to be loving towards your God and your neighbor, and picking up and bearing your cross, uh, then that's enough. That's enough right there. And your spiritual maturity will come through doing those sorts of things. Just like your we'll say your moral maturity doesn't come magically. It comes from you productively engaging in the world. Anything more than that, I would need to know a little bit about the person that I'm actually talking to. So, but there's just kind of the generic advice for spiritual maturity. That's something that God's going to do, and you just do your duty. Does Justinian's code have any authority in the Roman Catholic Church? No, it does not. All previous ecclesial laws were repealed first with the 1917 Code of Canon Law and then again in the 1983 Code of Canon Law. So, on the offhand chance that anything might have had authority, it would have ended there. But Justinian's Code, that would have been a piece of civil law. And even in the day, they had at least some idea about the distinction between the power of the emperor, the power of the church. Um, Even though that the emperors, as patrons of the church, sometimes did make laws governing church affairs. You can remember that Constantine was the one who ended up organizing the Council of Nicaea. So, no, Justinian's Code would not currently have any authority in the Roman Catholic Church. That's a piece of civil law. Now, the basic structure and principles of canon law in the church come from the Roman tradition. So, insofar as Justinian's Code tells us about the Roman continental law tradition, might give us some interpretive principles and how to interpret law. Some of those kinds of interpretive principles have made it explicitly into the Code of Canon Law, but there's no direct authority that Justinian's Code would have over any Catholics today. Everybody's shy today. They must have put on weight over Thanksgiving and not want to show up on the camera. That's fine. That's fine. I'll just sit here and talk to myself for 2 hours. That'll be fun. Yeah, the only people who have legislative authority in the Catholic Church right now is the Pope and the bishops. So, Jacob has a cold and is coughing a lot. How can you get a cold in Los Angeles? That sounds impossible. Although 'tis the season. Your brain is fried. Yeah, okay. William Branch says, "We like you, Father." Okay. It is a little, I don't know how like Rush Limbaugh would do it. Like that guy would just show up and talk for 3 hours into a camera uh, at work. I would do that 5 days a week. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, somehow people do it. Much snow yet. We got about an eighth of an inch of snow today, and that's about as much snow as we've got. Alrighty. 4 weeks of Christmas break is coming soon. Alrighty, that should be good. Mark's driving. Everybody's got an excuse why they can't hop on the street tonight. That's fine. That's fine. You see my stream on good parenting. I would be interested in your feedback. It is based on my presentations at the convent. I did not. I did not. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of sources did you use for the stream on good parenting? Yeah, yeah. I got sick on my birthday back in September, and so hopefully that's all I got. When I was at my oh look, Emma's coming to bail me out.
Hi.
Was talking a lot to myself for a while.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry. I had to eat dinner first.
you got to eat dinner.
I got to eat dinner. No, it was very good. I made and ate dinner, and I decided to not do that on stream.
Yeah, that's actually probably a good deal. Nobody comes on to see people consume things on stream.
Nobody you want there.
Fair. Fair. Yeah, the internet's got all sorts of people on it. Piaget, cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yeah.
and common sense with a pinch of 12-step. All right. All right.
Okay.
That's what yeah, no, not sure what you do with cognitive behavioral therapy and parenting, but
I mean, there's a lot of senses in which cognitive behavioral therapy is just reparenting yourself better to get what you need. Because it's like dealing with negative thoughts and like learning good habits and stuff that some people don't need to do in therapy because their parents were able to give them that.
or at least 80% of it,
Or
and
at
they
least
figured out.
80% of it, and they can hack the rest of it.
Yeah. Parents often fall into cognitive distortions in their relationship with their children. Yeah,
Well,
that's true. You know, these Oedipal complexes and all sorts of things. They don't come from nowhere.
yeah. I mean, personally, I'd say people often fall into cognitive distortions in their relationships. But we
All
can narrow it down
relationships.
if you want.
Yeah, yeah. You can look at that, children. They reinforce their cognitive distortions in their
Yeah.
children. Yeah.
Speaking as someone 3 generations deep in social anxiety, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like with the world we live in today, um, and just I'm going to say this, and we'll see if I get in any trouble for it. But all the diversity that you encounter, which
Mm,
the 14th century French peasant wouldn't have to encounter that much diversity. Um, Anxiety is not a surprising response to that
response. No,
because it's like
that's a good point.
our cities are just big and they're full of all sorts of people, and you don't really know them. So um, that can certainly be anxiety inducing.
Inducing. There's it's a very weird thing. Um, because I've never lived somewhere that actually worked like this. But there's something that feels deeply wrong to me about being able to walk around my town and go to the grocery store and go wherever without running into anyone I know. And I don't know where that came from because I've never really lived somewhere where I'm like guaranteed to run into someone I know. But maybe it's the fact that it never happens. It just feels deeply unnatural.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're basically correct on that. I tend to go places and people know me. So I went and donated blood on Friday, and there was somebody who's like, "Hi, Father." I was in civilian clothes. I was like, "Hi, you're gonna have to remind me of your name." Which
Because you're the
happens
guy
to me.
standing up at the front of the church,
I'm the guy
whose
standing up
name
at the
is in the
front of the
bulletin.
church. Yeah, yeah. This was in Wapaton, though. So Wapaton's the sort of place where you would have a fighting chance of actually knowing everybody by reputation.
Ah,
It's a town of about
one of
8,000
those
people.
little North Dakota towns.
Little North Dakota. I'm not in a small town anymore. I don't
He's
think.
in the big city now.
Yeah, Fargo. I don't think would be considered. I mean, it's certainly not big, but it's big enough where you can't really know everybody. Wonder what the
Yeah.
latest census data is.
Do you know the Music Man?
I do. I was in the Music Man.
Of course you were.
I was salesman number one.
Oh, nice. In the
You could
train
talk,
song
you
at the
could talk, you could
beginning.
bicker, you could talk, you could bicker, 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 you could talk, you could talk, you could talk, bicker, bicker, bicker. You could talk all you wanted, but it's different than it was. Yeah.
I don't. I've never been in it. I don't actually know it. I just want you to know that every time it comes up that you're in Fargo, I want to sing Wells Fargo Wagon.
Oh, the Wells Fargo
Wells Fargo
wagon.
wagon is coming down the street. Yeah. And I mentioned it to my sister, and she immediately started singing Wells Fargo wagon. So you just need to know that that's like intrinsically linked to you for my family, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Hey, Philip.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
Doing great. Just want everybody to know that Fargo is a real town with 131,044 people in it. And that's not counting West Fargo or Moorhead. So there. We're a real town.
Can I do something really depressing?
If you
How
have
does that
to.
compare to the number of students at University of Illinois?
I guess we're doing a little more research. I can spell. Is this the one you're looking for?
Yeah.
53,000 students
Okay, cool.
in spring of 2023.
Not as many as I feared.
Okay,
Cool.
that's still a big load. And holy mackerel, we've gone from
All-
famine to feast. We've got Ted and Jean. Jean, you must be back in the United States.
I am, because it's not the midnight hours.
Yes, very good, very good. And Ted, how are you? How are you recovering from the conference?
I went from a intellectual and relational feast to an actual feast of like 3 days of Thanksgiving. And frankly, I'm exhausted, and I'm looking forward to a nice, relaxing day of tree work tomorrow.
Yes, you're the
I
guy
feel
who can
that.
climb up into a tree and hack the limbs off and find that relaxing.
Yeah, no, that is great. Like, I can't believe it was only last weekend. It feels like it was a month ago,
I know.
honestly. But it's cool. It's like when you have some time, you start to realize what sort of things like really mattered. And so, it's just, it takes a little while to figure out what was important, and it's cool to get to do that. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the recordings.
Me too. I
Yeah.
need to show my mom.
So Jess is working on those, cleaning them up and like putting it in a little intro sequence and stuff. So I would rather wait a little bit longer and have something a little bit nicer. So
Right. That doesn't. So you're behaving very well. You're behaving very rationally. I have no criticisms of you. I'm still impatient.
me too.
Yeah.
I've been communicating that to Jess. I'm like, hey, I know you're doing this for free, but I'm still really excited. So can you just tell me when it's going to be done?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it was a blast, and I was just really rich. This was really fun to like. One of the things I didn't really, I should have seen coming, but was like getting to kind of bring some different worlds in my own life, some circles that don't previously interconnect, and having them be interconnected, and like like having my mother get up and read poems like that she had written. Like that was really fun.
Yeah. And she read at mass.
Like, oh, did she? That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't tell us that we were going to your mother's parish for mass.
We all had to see her get up to do the like introduction and be like, "Is that Ted's mom? That's Ted's mom."
Lovely little parish, though. I had a great time saying mass there.
That was great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, we have churches this size in North Dakota. Yeah, this is nice. Feels just like home, except everybody's got a Southern accent.
Yes, which means it's better. But anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Yeah, it was pretty wonderful too. Just like my mother being the way that she is, and then she got up and read these like, just like gritty. I was telling her, I was like, when she was getting in the car to leave that afternoon, I said, I didn't realize until today that like you're a Southern Gothic, right? Like this just like never clicked with me before, that like my mother's writing is like totally in the vein of Southern Gothic. It's like, oh, you would have been friends with Flannery O'Connor if she had been alive. And so yeah, I just like, I enjoyed the kind of the funny, like there's just a lot there. It was cool. So at any rate, yeah, Philip, you don't see you on very often, and Jean I've never met, so I don't want to dominate things. So you guys hopped on right when I did. So
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to talk about, but I was kind of curious about what you guys think about closed Catholic communities, like the pros and cons of them. Like Catholics that I don't know much about this at all, but like even some place like where's that place Matt Fraud lives? All the Catholics. Steubenville. It seems to me, just from the outside looking in, when you get like a close-knit Catholic community like that, there's some pros that they can grow together spiritually and like be comfortable and be in a neighborhood of all Catholics and like just feel comfortable that way. But they also seem to get very inward looking, in my opinion, and a lot more conservative when they withdraw from the world. I'm just wondering if anybody else sees that. Am I being unfair?
So I don't know if Steubenville would be the best example of that. There's just a really solid Catholic university there, and
there's a lot of non-Catholics in town. Yeah,
but the town itself is just kind of a Rust Belt, nightmare. So them going in and kind of taking things over is like, it's not that hard for them because there's just nothing, and there'll be a leaven to the community, I'm sure. I see this sometimes with traditionalist parishes. Now, I am a genuine Latin Mass enjoyer, and you know that all about that. I said the traditional Latin Mass this morning. I had a great time. But this is like a problem church-wide, is that we'd have cars now. And we don't have, I think, uniformity that would help us out a lot. And so we're missing we're missing having the whole body of Christ together in one place, which you get a little more of in a more, I'm just going to say, normie parish. And all I mean by that is where the majority of United States Catholics go for Mass on Sunday, because you'll have like the young priest there and he'll be like, really, what's this up, and then he's got to learn how to interact with somebody who's like, yeah, I kind of, show up for this on Sundays and I go to yoga on Tuesdays. And it's like, okay, here we are. I don't like yoga. I think it's bad. But never mind that. But you do get the whole body of Christ there. And what the normies do for the body of Christ is they prevent you from getting too weird. You don't get so insular that you can't interact with people.
I have to interject that I think that normies are kind of weird.
Okay.
I concur. I totally
Another
concur.
base take from Jean. Tell us a little more about that.
Please, I want to hear this.
I say the things without knowing, but I think that what we consider normal and weird is relatively arbitrary. And so I agree with the benefits of having a whole big, broad cross section that can have in a whole lot of different kinds of people. But like the idea of like this set of people is normal and then that set of people is weird is, I think, an arbitrary imposition that we collectively decide upon.
I mean, it's
But
almost largely like a statistical thing.
Yeah.
Because there's two senses of the word normal. One sense is you're talking about something like a mean or an average, or a mean or a, what's the most frequently occurring one?
Mode.
Mode. You're talking about mean
Mode.
or mode. There's a philosophical notion of normalness, which is like at the end of that hideous strength, when Mark is like clinging to the notion of normal in the objectification room. And that's like,
Yeah.
normal is like families and sunshine and sandwiches. And that's not really arbitrary. And that sense of normal is like, yeah, you should go for that normal. But I'm going to push back. Look, and I'm going to push back on Father Eric's point, and take this the best way possible, because right, the whole, yeah, but like I show up for mass, but I'll yoga, and it's like, okay, there's some healthy balance to that. On the other hand, like if you think about what's being said in, say, the Nicene Creed, right, the and then the notion of the miracle of the Eucharist at every mass. And you're like, and that doesn't affect the way that I think about exercising my body. I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Like, you're making some like really radical metaphysical statements here by saying God became a man and then he died and he's going to come back and judge us. And that like the triune creator of the universe, who's the ground of being and the first and the last, like somehow indwells in you ontologically, and that like isn't going to work out into all this other stuff. That's the part where I'm like, not to like disclose any person from being on a journey, being in a process, moving somewhere, but like, man, I'm really going to fall down on the side of, yeah, it's going to make you quote unquote weird, because what you're saying is deeply weird in those senses.
Well, and so, you know, for my language, the normies help we'll say the more intense types connect with the rest of the world, and the more intense types can correct the normies when they're being lazy or incorrect about something. So the whole body, right? And I bring up specifically, you know, some of the kind of your biggest, most average parish is because you don't have that leaven that you would get with the sort of people who prefer the Latin Mass or extremely reverent liturgy, which you would have gotten that, I think, just as a statistical roll of the dice when everybody was just walking to whatever parish was nearest.
Yeah,
I think that there is a certain kind of
sorry,
a
Even
certain
then,
kind
though,
of
people
wisdom
still
in
self-selected.
a certain kind of wisdom and the capacity to hold things together, and especially to hold personality types together. And there's what we're seeing in our world is kind of fracturing of like different personality types self-select themselves into these different kinds of churches. But I think that there's a kind of wisdom of an institution that is able to hold everything together. And I think I was talking about this, I think like maybe a month ago in the Catholic channel on the bomb about the Bishop Strickland thing. And it seemed like Rome wasn't able to hold East Texas into its thing, because I felt like Strickland was an expression of the will of East Texas, not just him being a crazy person off by himself.
Really,
But then
a lot of people in Tyler loved him.
I still love him. It's like around, yeah. It's so like I felt like Rome's condemnation of Bishop Strickland was a condemnation of East Texas itself, and that refutes the Roman Church's claim to being universal. If Rome can't find a way to keep East Texas into its fold without overriding East Texas as it is, then Rome can't really claim to include that land in the thing that it is.
Yeah, and also, you know, a bishop shouldn't be removed from office without due process. So we can we can look at a number of, even if it's just an administrative process that says, hey, you incited hatred for the Apostolic See across on Twitter, you know, like even an administrative process like that would be better than just raw papal will. So anyway, listen to the earlier part of the stream where I talked about how interested in the papacy that I was. See, this is the world I long for, and maybe the Jews have this figured out. The prohibition of cars and microphones on the Sabbath has been a blessing on Orthodox Judaism that nobody could have predicted, because you have to go to your neighborhood synagogue. There's no synagogue shopping for Orthodox Judaism because you have to go whatever. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a claim that's probably even more what the internet people call based, which is basically that almost any kind of agreed upon set of constraints is going to be a benefit for a community. Like basically anything. I mean, my friend made this point this spring, and it's been like rattling around my head ever since, that the etymology of the word community is not like with unity. It's not like community. It's communis. It's with walls. The community is a thing that's walled off, not a thing that has unity together. And I mean, we were having this discussion. I've had this discussion many times. I mean, like, you look at all sorts of things, like there's the cultural perception of the Amish, and then you look at their actual demographics, and they've been growing at 2 to 3% annually for a long time, for at least half a century. It's like those Amish are just cranking out the life and the culture. And what's interesting is you can dial in on it, and like they've got all sorts of different restrictions. I mean, there's actually somewhere on Wikipedia, there's a spreadsheet that shows all the different sects of Amish. Did I say Mormon? Amish. Spreadsheet of all the different these Amish sects and all the things that they like prohibit and don't prohibit, and it sort of doesn't matter. Like on some level, you should decide, yeah, these are good things and these are bad things, but maybe even more importantly is like, look, we're all just, because we all have such an insane capacity, like economic, technological, all of these things, like we could just access anything, anytime, anywhere, basically. And so then it's like, well, what are you going to do? And it's like, the only way to not spin out into total disunity is to put intentional, bumpers on things, so yeah.
I was chatting with a guy who had deconstructed from Assemblies of God, and this was like a serious, like, full of muscles and motorcycles and type A and lots of energy and doing things and like being a radical person in the world. And like I was talking about him and like deconstructing early in his 20s, and I had this sense that his church wasn't able to hold his personality type within itself. There wasn't a space for him to be himself, and in order to continue to participate in this church, he would have to have fundamentally changed himself and fundamentally change his destiny and change his way of being. And he agreed with that. He said, except there's one exception. I could have been like the pastor. And if I were the pastor, I could have like done that and then like done all my crazy stuff with like booze and girls on the side and stuff. But like that was the only path that he could have followed it to be in that church. And he didn't want to do that. And so he left the church. So like there's this thing of orienting around personality types. And there's the necessity of having rules and structures that pull people in. But then those rules and structures, can you pull people in, or does it break people out of the thing?
Well, I don't think you can contain everything. So I don't want the church to be like, no, this is a big debate that's going on in the church right now.
I totally agree.
And it's like, yeah, we're not going to accommodate sins. And, like obviously we're going to have sinners, and obviously these sinners are going to commit sins and they should be going to confession. And but we're not going to sit here and hold up sin and like, that's not sin anymore. You can go ahead and do that. And the churches that have just kind of fallen into terminal demographic decline. So a certain amount of this, I don't know your friend. You was talking about booze and women, though. It's like, well, like you got to cut back the booze to a limited amount and stick to one woman, and that's the Christian way. And if you can't do that, then maybe we'll try and catch you when you're dying. And I'll give you the last rites, and that'll work. Because there's some people There's some people who I'm only convinced that that'll be how I ever get them.
How much does charisms play a role in keeping a community together? Like if people discovered their charisms, if they were developed, and it was like, okay, we all have different personalities, different gifts. Now here's how you can use your charism.
Yeah.
Because there's like, I'm not a very confrontational person, but I really enjoy confrontational people. And like even the guy I'm an usher mass, like he's different than me. He's very much like, this is the rule, we follow the rule. And I'm like, I want to put a chair in that aisle because like people are really squeezed together. No, it's against the fire rules. We can't do it. So I put the chair there. I walk around to do something. I come back and the chair is gone and the guy squeezed into the pew again. So I'm like, okay. For me, it's also a learning process too, right? Because he's been doing it for 60 years and I've been doing it for like a year or less than a year. Way less, actually 8 months. So, but just like that, how different personalities, different gifts can work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's what unifies us has to be strong enough to keep the different personalities, temperaments, and gifts together.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is, as a recent convert, that fascinated me is the whole notion of like these confraternities and these special devotions, and it's just like it's a level of diversity within unification that I just couldn't. Everything that I was encountering in the sort of non-denominational ecumenical Protestantism that I was in, that diversity was held together by like ignoring actual difference and pretending that it wasn't important. And there's this whole other level in the church where it's like, it is all well and good for you to just like be totally about this thing. Like, the only thing you're not allowed to do is say that everyone has to be like that. You can't leave communion with Rome. You can't be above the sacraments and the liturgy. But otherwise, like, yeah, just like knock yourself out and don't say that everyone else has to be like you. And I guess it's a really cool thing. And I mean, you can see that on like the low level, right? So these various devotions, but I think on the higher level, in terms of like all the religious orders that are there, like, let's be honest, like if those religious orders were forming in the US, they would all be different denominations that all were like at each other's throats. Like, and it's like
they kind of were at each other's throats
anyway.
in the Middle Ages.
Sure, but they didn't. But they're still together. Like that's actually astonishing. Is that like 800 years later, the Dominicans and the Franciscans are still in the same church?
Yeah.
No, they've got these great traditions where on the Feast of St. Dominic, the Franciscan priest will give the homily, and on the Feast of St. Francis, the Dominican priest will give the homily.
When is the Feast of St. Dominic?
August something.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Now you've nerd sniped me.
I thought it was recent. It seemed like it was very recent.
Francis was last month.
Okay. Yeah.
And more people notice the Feast of St. Francis because a lot of American parishes will bless pets on the Feast of St. Francis.
Oh, wow.
So you like hear about it.
Oh my goodness. I have a story about that I'm not going to share on the internet. But if you ever find me in person, ask me about the blessing of pets.
August 8th. Okay.
Yeah.
In August.
Never heard of the pet thing before. Heard of the car thing, not the pet thing.
Yeah,
I can bless pets. Car thing, so.
You can bless pets. It's fine. Some people get a
little
too
pretty
into
much
it.
anything, can't you?
Except sin.
Like physical things. Yeah.
Unless it cannot be used for a good purpose, and then I won't bless it.
That's fair.
There'd be sorted items that I'm not going to bless that.
Yeah.
Want me to bless your gun? Though I'll bless your gun. That's fine.
Nice.
So on behalf of that one guy in the Catholicism channel earlier, what is the deal with indulgences?
Oh, we want to go on with indulgences, huh? Okay. No, I got a whole thing.
Then we can clip this and send it to him.
Yes. Let me just indulgences. So, I want you to imagine under what circumstances a good father would punish his children.
Okay, I've set the garbage on fire, and like there's like all of the plastic thing that holds garbage is all melted over the driveway. There's a
Yeah.
huge fire.
Is
I've
this
done this thing.
autobiographical?
No, I'm just imagining it.
Okay, right. So your father, little Jean, has set the garbage can on fire. He did it on purpose. He kind
I
of
wanted
knew
to see
that
it burn.
throwing lit matches into the garbage can was a bad idea. He's 12, right? You should know that. He should know better. So why would you want to punish him? Well, the fundamental thing you want from your children as a good father, and I mean this I'm not saying a legislator punishing criminals. I'm saying a father with his children now. That's what I'm using. Is for your child to learn that sort of thing is wrong and to become the kind of person who not only doesn't do that, but isn't even tempted to do that. Now, that's a high bar right there. And human fathers often over or underreact. And that's just life in a veil of tears right here. But the goal for a just father is to only inflict this punishment in order to make his children good, to make them morally upright people. So
I want to walk past the garbage and not even think about setting it on fire.
Yes, that's the sort of person that you need to become. So that's the way that our Father in heaven treats us. He does punish us for our sins. And there is a certain aspect of justice to that. But I think probably the overriding concern, even over the restoration of justice, is so that we can become worthy of his presence, that we can become morally upright and, achieve divinization or theosis, if you like to go at it from the Eastern perspective.
What does this phrase mean? Worthy of his presence.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are not properly prepared, if you have not put on your wedding garment, then you won't be able to stand in the presence of a holy God. You have to be prepared in that. As it says in the book of Revelation, nothing unclean will enter in there. So that's what punishment from God is supposed to accomplish, to make us holy, to correct our faults. If you live the Christian life well here on earth, there's no need for purgatory. If you take advantage of all of the opportunities that the Lord gives you, that you avail yourself of the grace that he's made available through Jesus Christ, through the sacraments, through the whole Christian life, you don't need purgatory. You can go straight to heaven.
Wait, so like, who is the sort of person who doesn't need purgatory? Are we talking like the great neighbor down the road who's a fantastic person? Are we talking about Francis of Assisi? Are we talking about Jesus Christ? Like, where are we at in terms of
certainly Francis of Assisi?
Okay, he doesn't need purgatory.
Yeah. I'm rather convinced that there's more in the church than we would know about who got to that place where they wouldn't need purgatory.
Isn't that what All Saints? That's what All Saints Day is for.
Well,
right?
I think the ones who pass through purgatory into heaven would also be concluded in All Saints.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. So purgatory. The whole point of purgatory is to make up for what you didn't accomplish on earth. Right? You didn't bear your cross with enough love in order to perfect yourself from your moral failings and be worthy to enter the presence of God. Now, here's the thing, is that God is absolutely in charge, that he can create whatever he wants, wherever he wants. So God could allow you, he could remove any obstacles from your soul immediately if he wanted to. Right? He could just do that.
He could like do a go past go and collect your $200 or just like that.
He just he's God, isn't he? I mean, I think he would want your consent for that, right? I wouldn't do it without your consent. But you know what? If Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, came to me and said, "Hey, Father Sites, how would you like all of your sinful dispositions taken away?" All you have to do is say yes. I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, we'll do that."
Okay, so I feel like there's a whole lot of people who would say yes to that haven't been given the option to do that.
Yes. And then we get to indulgences. Right? Indulgences are precisely this, right? Works of prayer and fasting held up by the church, designed especially to separate you from the things of this world and get you to think more about the things of heaven. By the merits of Christ that you participate in, you can gain these indulgences from the treasury of graces that the church has in order to either perfect yourself or to apply that to one of the souls in purgatory, because they're still a part of the church as well. And so it's the same thing, right? But God is, in his mercy, instead of making you sweat it out, however you do in purgatory, can just immediately lift you up. As it's an indulgence, right? It's not justice anymore. It's indulgences.
Pre-sweat.
Yeah.
So somebody sweated on your behalf. Like, okay, so there's the ladies in the convents who are doing the sweating for the rest of us, and
Or
they're adding
Emma
things
could
to
do
the
this too.
right.
She could get an indulgence. There's even Emma and Ted and Philip and even Father Eric could do this.
But they're like adding to their account in, what did you say, the treasury of grace?
Yeah,
The church's treasury of grace.
the church has the
What
full
is this?
which is, it's like it's funny because it's one of those infinities that's bigger than another infinity. So the treasury of grace is all of the merits of Christ that he earned on the cross, which is infinite, plus the merits of the saints who have participated in that. So it's one of those
Okay.
infinities that's bigger than another infinity, but it's still not greater than just Christ himself. So anyway.
So I got a question. Can you separate God's punishment from God's mercy? Because I don't see how you can.
No. Even his worst. No. They're one thing in him. They're in him. They're one thing.
Yeah, like would not want to enter God's presence unless I was, however, whatever this means, pretty sure about I was ready for that.
Yeah.
What would it mean to enter God's presence without being ready for it?
I don't think you do.
You don't. Well,
I think you're repelled if you're not ready for it, if you're not worthy of it.
So, my Catholic imagination is so deeply formed by Dante, but he just hits it on the head so many times. When Dante gets down into hell, he's asking the exact same question. And the answer is that the souls who have not become friends of God in this life actually cast themselves into hell because they don't want to be near God. And worse and better than that, the entrance to hell has an inscription that says, "Divine love made me." Right? God's love made a place for the souls who want to flee from his presence. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Hell was created by love.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you start to, I don't know, for me anyway, this stuff starts to get a lot clearer when you, the more that I think about this, the good being is good, right? The union of the transcendentals, right? That being and goodness and truth are the same. And then you start thinking about, so what's moral evil? Like, let's take a movement away from existence, like anti-ontology. And so, like, if you're predominantly defined by evil, like you're actually not the kind of thing that can exist in a relationship to goodness and being. It's like, oh, okay. It's not a question of you, like, it is a question of you wanting to be evil. I mean, to be evil, to be morally wrong is to, like, by definition, is to not love God, like, or to love his attributes. Like, that's all you're saying. Like, if God is actually good, not in the sense of like God holds moral qualities, but God is goodness, than to say like, yeah, I just like things that are evil. I mean, you're just saying like, I don't like God. And so then why would, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes sense, but it's also could be I'm not worthy of God, so I reject God first. But I guess that's also saying I don't like God.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing is, he can make you worthy. He's inviting you to be made worthy in his grace. And so it's actually kind of an act of pride to be like, oh, my sins, my sins, Father. Let me tell you about my sins. You meet guys like this. Sometimes they're just joking. Other times they're a little more serious. They're like, you don't want to hear my confession, Father. It would really blow your mind. And I'm like, yeah, come on, man. I just pay attention to my own imagination. That gives me a pretty good idea of what darkness is within man.
I've also
And it's
heard
like,
from
yeah,
other
that's
priests, they're
pride
like,
right there to say that your sins can actually negate God's mercy. That's just
Mhm.
pride. Like, no, they can't.
Yeah.
Are you dumb?
Yeah, that can be difficult when you're first coming to Christianity. Because I mean, I had a priest tell me like mercy's just like a shower. All you got to do is just walk underneath it. And I just looked at him and it's like, what are you talking about? It's not easy to walk towards that shower because if you're paying attention, that shower means death. No, it means death to self. But I'm not dying in that. Like you see it as, oh, it's all, unicorns and ponies. Well, sorry about the unicorn part. But anyway, it's like, Father, that is death. That is death for me to do that. So, I mean, eventually I was like, okay, there's freedom, not
you're
death.
putting the old man to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that, oh shoot, I don't have that Hopkins book with me. He's got a great poem about exactly that. It's, Carrying Comfort. Oh no, it's right here. Awesome. Hold on. If you guys will just give me your attention for like a couple more seconds, I think you'd appreciate this. Oh goodness, where is it? Carrying Comfort. What serves mortal beauty?
Oops, I did that.
Make me feel. I'm sorry, I should have just had this right in front
I
of
can
me.
ask Emma what she's making. What are you making, Emma?
I'm making a sock, but I think I need to pick out a little bit of it because I just made a mistake.
Okay.
I like knitting while on these because if my hands don't have something to do, my brain stops paying attention.
Here it is. Yeah, so this is, I'll just read the whole thing because it's beautiful and because, no one's on a schedule. I'll not carry in comfort, despair, not feast on thee, not untwist, slack they may be, these last strands of man, in me or most weary, cry, I can no more, I can choose something, hope, wish day come, not choose not to be. But oh thou terrible, why wouldst thou root on me, thy ring earth right foot rock, or lay a lion lamb against me, scan with darksome devouring eyes my bruised bones, and fan, in turns of tempest, me heaped there, me frantic to avoid thee and flee? Why? That my chaff might fly, my grain lie sheer and clear. Nay, and all that toil, that coil, since seems I kissed the rod, hand rather, my heart low, lapped strength, stole joy, would laugh, cheer. Cheer whom though? The hero whose handling flung me foot trod? Me, or me that fought him? Oh, which one? Is it each one? That night, that year, of now done darkness, I wretch lay wrestling with my God, my God. But I mean, there's several things in here, but why is God basically, why is God apparently playing rough with me? It would be one way to put it. And he says, me or me that fought him? Oh, which one? Is it each one? Like Philip, it's like exactly that. You're like, which? You say, oh, that shower of mercy is death, and it's like, yeah, right. But the entire question is death of what? Like, which me? Which me is dying when I get in the shower? Yeah. Also, I love that line. I can something, hope, wish day come, not choose not to be.
Not choose.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not.
Yeah. Yeah. Choose not to be. Oof.
Not choose not to be. It's like, well, I mean, there's this wonderful thing, and actually, I think this ties in really well with Indulgences, Father, because I'm thinking about some of those passages in the New Testament when people, the Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. when the apostles come to him and they say, like, Lord, increase our faith. There's this weird sort of like thing about these virtues, like hope or faith, where there's like, if you can just have enough to ask for it, like more of it will come. Like you don't even have to hope. You just have to try to not stop. You don't even have to want to exist. You just have to not want to not exist. It's like, you don't have to believe. You just have to believe that you could believe. It's like, it's a very weird thing.
To want.
Yeah.
I don't
exactly,
want, but I
James.
wish that I wanted.
Yeah. That's and indulgences are basically like that's kind of what I'm hearing Father say, and it's lined up with other things that I've heard. It's like, how would God go about giving you access to these things that would bring you into his presence? If you are a creature who's incapable of those acts of charity, well, then you do something that's like, well, it's like, here's a button. Like, I know you can't walk all the way to the top of the mountain, but here's a button that'll, like, if you could just get enough will to push that button, it'll take you in an elevator all the way to the top. And you're like, oh, well, I could push that button. I could pray that rosary. I could go on that pilgrimage, and so on. So, yeah.
It can be really hard to even want those things too.
Well, boy, that's when you learn some things about yourself.
It's like, it's so easy, but still.
There's another. I read this one in the airport on the way back from Arkansas from Hopkins. It's kind of brutal. I don't know if you've ever heard this one before, but I'm going to read it now because we're in a poetry sharing mood.
Yeah. More Hopkins.
Thou art indeed just, Lord, if I contend with thee. But, sir, so what I plead is just. Why do sinners' ways prosper? And why must disappointment all I endeavor end? Wert thou my enemy, O thou my friend, how wouldst thou worse, I wonder, than thou dost defeat me, thwart me? Oh, the sots and thralls of lust do in spare hours more thrive than that I spend, sir, upon thy cause. See, banks and breaks now leaved, how thick, how laced they are again with Freddie Sherville. Look, and fresh wind shakes them. Birds build, but not I build. No, but strain, time's eunuch, and not breed one work that wakes. Mine, O thou Lord of life, send my roots rain. It's like, I don't know. If you haven't been following God for very long, maybe you don't feel that one. But if you've been going at it for a while and you notice how sinful you still are, you kind of feel it.
Yeah.
And that's what God has to work with. So that's why he has to give us indulgences in order to actually get us to a place where we can be worthy of him. His unmediated presence, specifically.
Indulgences. I'm Jean Cavalier. I have burned down this garbage can, and the green plastic is melted all over the driveway. To me, because I'm Protestant, the process of indulgence is I go grab $5 American, and I go hand it to my older sibling. And then the older sibling gets me an indulgence, which does what, and how does that work? Like, why is the indulgence processed by the $5 to my older sibling?
So first off,
I don't think that is the indulgence process.
Let's just take money out of this because we've got a bit of trouble with money and indulgences. It's a bit of a sore spot still, even 500 years down the line. So we'll. Is it specifically the siblings' intervention that's rattling you?
Okay, so I'm gathering distant memories of my childhood and being taught about the Reformation and why we did a Reformation. And it has to do with these things. and we talk about corruption in the Catholic Church, where we go and we pay priests all these money that we're purchasing righteousness with money, and then the priest walks away with a big pile of money, and then we're
Yeah.
saying no, that's not right because there's no mediator between man and God.
Yeah, yeah. So, in response to the Protestant Reformation, the church, so there's three traditional acts of satisfaction, which are designed to separate you from the love of this world in order to help you to love God more. You've got prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Right. It's right there in the Sermon on the Mount. We're not making up anything that separates you from the love of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. We stopped doing indulgences for almsgiving specifically because we were abusing that. And it was making things worse and not better. But we still have prayer and fasting. So you no longer can get indulgences for almsgiving. That doesn't make almsgiving.
Who's giving the indulgence? Is it the Roman Church or is it the throne of the Father?
The Roman Church with the authority of the Father.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Peter has the keys.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Does the Father grant indulgences outside of the structure of the Roman Church or not?
I don't think so, but he certainly, well, it seems probable that he would still give children who are not in full communion with the church grace. But indulgences are specifically, it's sort of like the church attaches rewards to certain pious actions that you can do in order to encourage you to do them. But they would probably, if you were to do the exact same thing without intending or knowing that there was an indulgence attached, it would probably do you just as much good.
Why would it do you just as much good if you're not interacting with the Roman Church who gives it to you?
Well, I'm imagining, like, let's say Philip doesn't know that if you piously meditate on scripture for 15 minutes, you get an indulgence.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah, right? He didn't know that. Maybe he did that, right? It's like, hey, guess what?
I'm pretty sure I've done that at some point in my life without knowing it.
Pretty, it might not be a plenary indulgence. It might just be a partial indulgence. But yeah, that little thing
Something
right there.
good happened. Something good happened when he meditated on the scripture.
Yeah, right. And so the indulgence is a bit of just like an incentive of the church specifically holding this up to you and saying, hey, with our authority, you do this, we'll give you time out of purgatory, you know? But here's the fine print, John. Here's the fine print. Is that one of the conditions for attaining a plenary indulgence, full remission of all temporal punishment in purgatory, is not being attached to sin.
What does attached mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
And so, if you do meet the conditions for a plenary indulgence, but just like, oh man, I still like getting hammered, but only on Saturday nights. I only ever get drunk on Saturday nights, you know. It's like, well, you get the indulgence except for the bits on the Saturday nights, or you get drunk, you know.
Okay, but
Okay, so
I'm grasping. I'm not being Protestant by grasping this, but I'm grasping the concept of purgatory, and that we sweat it out, and we're being brought into theosis, and then the way indulgence plays a part of that. There's a grace that comes upon us that negates, that separates us from our sin and unites us with the Father. But then the role of the Roman Church in all of that is fuzzy to me. So like I'm imagining this, like the Roman Church, like it has access to the bank account of the indulgences, and so it goes and makes a withdrawal and hands out all these indulgences to all these people. But then is the Roman Church, are they the only name on the account, or are there other holders of that account?
For indulgences
Like, does God, is
specifically,
God on the account? Are there angels on the account? Are there, like, who else? Who else
so
can hand out these graces?
indulgences are a sacramental. They're instituted by the church. So they're
What
not
does
a
it mean that they're
divine,
instituted?
meaning, so at one point, there wasn't such a thing as a miraculous medal. There were no miraculous medals. People didn't bless miraculous medals. And then Our Lady showed up to somebody, I can't remember who, and said,
Margaret
make
Mary
these medals.
Alacoque?
No, that's
Yeah.
the most. I thought she was the one who had the visions of the most sacred heart.
And so the church
Maybe.
has the authority to do things like, okay, guess
Catherine
what?
Bore.
We're blessing miraculous medals now.
That's my final guess.
You know, at some point we had to come up with a blessing for holy water. I imagine that was pretty early on. But that wasn't of divine foundation. And so these indulgences are instituted by the church. And so just like the Orthodox don't have miraculous medals, neither do they have indulgences. But it's like they still have, you know, we would recognize 7 sacraments that they have. They have all sorts of blessings that we would think are probably about as efficacious as anything I could pull off. So does that help?
Not really. Maybe if I listened to it again. But
Okay.
no.
Yeah. No, the church has the ability to institute certain things, and yeah, if
Blessing
you
metal. So,
but
like,
look,
in some ways,
God,
the church
God is
church
still free
invented
to
this
give His
idea that
graces to
metal.
whom He wants,
Okay.
and there would be ways of getting grace that aren't via indulgences or sacraments, even.
Well, it seems like indulgences it's a very general term and a very general idea, and it seems like a restating of the idea of giving a grace. And I don't
Sure.
really see the distinction between an indulgence and a grace.
Yeah, well, that's the point. They're supposed to communicate grace. The church is basically holding this up and say, "Hey, you do this, it's guaranteed." Right? Assuming you
It's like,
actually
I mean, look,
go at it with a sincere heart.
it's like no. I mean, these metaphors are sometimes crap, but like, it's like a teacher at the front of the classroom, and they're like, "Look, there's all this candy at the front of the classroom. If anyone wants a piece of candy, raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, you're not getting the candy." Like the indulgence is basically like raising your hand for grace. You're like, "Yes, I would like that grace. I'm going to raise my hand." Because the difference between like what you're doing and what you're receiving are just so absurdly out of proportion. It's like go pray a rosary in a group. It'll take you about 15 minutes, and there's a plenary indulgence attached to that. It's like, okay,
Wow.
most people can do that. Everyone can do that, actually. And so really, like it's just basically saying like, here are the things, like if you would like to engage your will to receive grace, here you go. These are all things that you can do that are like saying yes to grace.
I think it's like 80% catechetical.
How I would put it in my own meathead way is that I've been working out since I was 12 at different stages, and if I do the same workout every day on the same weights, I'm not going to grow. I got to constantly be changing it up. And it seems to me from very naive perspective is that when Mary appears to somebody and says, okay, here's the Catholic medals or whatever, like that's just a change up that's needed at the time.
It's Saint Bernadetta, actually, with
Sorry.
Our Lady of Lourdes. Yeah, sorry. I was just going to throw that in. I don't know if Laura's throwing out Catherine Leborn out there.
Sorry, my meatheadness stopped the room.
I'm so sorry, Philip. I really did not mean to interject. I went somewhere else.
I like it. Thank you. I'm all for it.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I could read a poem now if anybody wants.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's not on the subject of indulgences. And I'm not like a real poet, like a reading poetry guy, and I haven't read this for a long time, so it's not going to be that smooth. But it's Wendell Berry, and it's called the think it's called the manifesto. Anyway, love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die. And you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields. Lie easy in the shade. Rest your head in her lap. Swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be the fox that makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection.
Yeah. Become ungovernable. But that's what it is, right? That was a call
It
to
is,
freedom
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
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 That the pawns are free. I have a 187 ducks.
That's a good one, Philip. I haven't read that one in ages.
I like that it's for me it's about humility and freedom and adventure. The freedom to say no, the freedom to be weird, the freedom to say the things that you want to say but still be careful about it, and the freedom to embrace people that irritate you and agitate you. Because man, there's gold there.
Yeah.
There's gold there when somebody like just agitates you. Like sometimes you got to walk away, and sometimes you got to go back to it, and it's like let's go. Like there's
Which
some
is why I need to reread Wendell Berry.
Because he agitates you?
I had to read him in high school, and I don't even remember like exactly what it was about his writing that I didn't like, but just everything I've read by him comes off as so sanctimonious and kind of self-righteous, and it drives me crazy. Or it did in high school and college.
yeah.
There's totally some of that, especially in his poetry. His novels, his
It was all
Jayber
essays too.
Crow.
I've only ever read essays by him.
Jayber Crow. Jayber Crow is wonderful.
That's what I've heard.
Interesting. You know, there's like 4 or 5 stories that every other story is an echo of, and I know which one I know which one that one's an echo of. And so if you read it, you know, I'd be interested to hear what you think. It's been a while, but
Okay. I'll
His-
put
yeah,
it on the
his-
list. I do need to come to read Jay McCrow, and I should read his fiction before writing him off entirely, because I've only ever read essays by him, and a lot of people come off as kind of obnoxious in essays.
I wonder if like the whole like, you know, trusting wounds from a friend thing is what the, you know, the Peterson sphere and this little corner stuff is about. It's like we want people who will like irritate us.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
can do that some of the time. If people want to be irritated, I can do that.
Talking
I
about
can do it
charism,
too.
you were talking about charism earlier. That's my charism.
My charism is sanctifying other people. Ooh. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. No, Philip, I like that. That poem that you read because it just holds up the value of doing things with no utility.
Yeah.
Praise God for that. Oh man.
Yeah. Like the most important things in life have no utility to this world.
So awesome.
So
You know,
there's
like
this Catholic philosophy professor at Christendom College in Virginia, Dr. John Kudebeck, and he came in. I've kind of our paths keep crossing over the last 7 years or so. He was at the pilgrimage this year and gave a really, really wonderful talk on fatherhood that was just astonishingly good. But I heard a talk he gave maybe 2 years ago, in which is the title of the talk was Animating the Household Through Leisure, which, you know,
Ooh.
I'd always thought leisure like leisure class and petite bourgeoisie stuff. And he always does this. He comes in and he's just like a classical philosopher in the sense of being incredibly sharp and organized. Like, and just there's like nothing sloppy about his thinking. It's just a delight. And he's a great speaker. But he broke down human action into three principal categories: work, which is to do something for a future goal; amusement, which is to recover from work. It's the things that we do to recover from and then leisure, which is the things that we do for their own sake.
I like
So
that because it makes amusement not like automatically bad.
Yeah. Well, right. Amusement has its proper place. And actually, my friend who just came through a couple of days ago, he's my baptismal sponsor. He brought up the virtue of eutrapelia, which is basically like virtuous recreation. It's like the capacity to have fun with people in a good way. It's it's the golden mean between buffoonery and sanctum, and like basically being overly solemn. At any rate, I'm kind of wandering off, but
Sorry.
his whole point is that no, that's completely my fault. His notion is that leisure is like basically we work as much as we have to so that we can have leisure, and we have amusement as much as we need to so that we can work enough to have leisure. Because in the category, like obviously not all leisure activities are of equal value. Like going to mass is a leisure activity in that schema. Prayer is a leisure activity, although prayer could be work as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the whole what makes a human life flourish, a family life flourish, is actually the leisure. Everything else moves towards the support of that. And there's these interesting ways in which like they start to blend together. You're like, is cooking the Christmas meal, is that work or leisure? Well, decorating the Christmas tree, like, oh, that starts to really blur, you know. But then camping and going, you know, it's like camping feels like a lot of work. Camping is not work. It shouldn't be work unless you're like an outdoors. Well, if you're an influencer and you're getting paid to go camping, right, something like that, then yeah, then it's work. But like a family going on a camping trip, despite that it might be toilsome, deeply toilsome. And what's weird is like when he said that, one of the first things that clicked with me is that like almost no one has any leisure in their life, actually. For all that we say about the world, it's like we're just work amusement all the time. We're just constantly doing, and I feel like what Philip's poem the poem Philip just read is totally a call to leisure in that sense. In Dr. Kudebeck's schema, he's saying, do things that don't fit into the schema of work amusement. Do the things that are valuable just because you did them, and you don't have to justify them to any man. So I like it, Philip.
Mm.
Having children is the ultimate leisure activity. Existing is the ultimate leisure activity.
Existing is the ultimate leisure activity. That's right.
I am practicing unlicensed existence right now.
Boy, mate.
I have not paid my existence permit in a while.
Cross the border, buddy.
You crossed the border.
I don't want to. Americans have guns.
Speaking of
Fair
guns,
can be amusing.
paintball with Mark was leisure. As painful as it was painful in his heart. It was toilsome, but that was 100% leisure.
You do it for its own sake.
There's exactly plastering Mark with paintballs does not need to be defended as being for some higher purpose.
So if you do it for the vine, that makes it not leisure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. 100%. If you're doing those things to gain social clout, it ceases to be true leisure, according to Dr. Kudebeck.
There's such a thing as type 2 leisure, though.
I want to know
No,
what
there's
that
not.
is. Is that too sweet? Is that like a
No, so there's type 1 fun, which is just like, oh, yeah, that was such a good time, And then there's type 2 fun, which, actually in the moment, it really stunk and you were miserable.
Yes.
But then when you look back on it, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Yes.
Like hiking is type 2 fun. So Corey is inventing type 2 leisure here.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going like a hike that really sucks, and I've been on those where I've been lost up on the side of a ravine and thinking, okay, I climbed my way up here. I can't see a way down. This is horrible. And starting to go down and then no, I'm going to die. Go back up. But I just can't stay at the top. I have to make my way down. It's, ugh. And then after that, after hours later, I get to my car. It's exhilarating. And I was just alone. And if you do it with other people, it's even more fun. Like this.
Yeah.
Man, that sucked. That was awesome.
Yeah, getting lost in the woods was awesome, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah. Well,
someday this will be a great story.
It's interesting. I feel like you're asking about when I think about convivium, that totally felt like a leisure thing for me.
Oh yeah.
And it took a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
But
that's
that
why
was absolutely leisure.
A treat.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need to explain why I did this or how it's going to benefit things or I did it because it was worth doing. And like a walking pilgrimage. And Philip, you're totally right. All those things, man, I'm such a sucker for that stuff. And the moment it's over, I'm like, I want to do it again. I did a hot wings challenge with my brother for his birthday last year. His wife did a hot wings challenge for me and two of his other friends. And it was excruciating. And then the next day I was like, I want to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Corey, we got you finally. We roped you in.
Yeah.
I saw so many of my favorite faces. I couldn't say no.
It was the prospect of some type 2 fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Oh man.
Sounds like a real Marine to me.
I've been recruiting for your monastery village.
Say what?
I've been recruiting for your monastery village. I got 2 siblings on board.
So I was just with my parents this past weekend for a little bit, and my brothers, and they were asking me about it. It's so your compound, is this going to be open to other? No, it's not a compound. It's not a commune. I don't even know what it's going to be, but it's probably not. But yeah, it's
going to be an intentional community.
Yeah,
intentional community
in northern Maine. In northern Maine, right, Corey? So you're close.
In Wisconsin.
No, that's too far. Northern Maine. There's so much land there. There's moose.
You should just come join us.
There's mountains.
Well, I've been learning in the book that Paul and Mark told me about, American Nations. Philip, you're in Yankeedom. You're basically one of us already. You should just come down.
Well, the Nickersons got kicked out of Yankeedom a long time ago. We went from
Well,
Yarmouth
was it long
to
enough ago?
Yarmouth to Nova Scotia. It ain't the same. We renamed it the same thing. It was like, nope, this ain't Yarmouth. Sorry, go ahead.
Philip, was your
Call it a
family like?
compound.
Were you guys
It's called
running like
an
whiskey or something?
Pardon me?
How'd you guys get kicked out of the States?
Oh, this was back
Way back when? Were you like
Revolutionary
Prohibition
War.
era?
Did they just
No,
redraw the
Revolutionary
borders?
War, like the American War of Revolution. Like,
Wow.
so
Tories fled north.
we sided with the British, like our family did, and then they
Oh, wow.
confiscated all our land and everything else and put us on a ship and sent us up to Nova Scotia.
That's literally what I just read about in American Nations.
Yeah.
So, wow. And also,
Wow.
I found out something cool. Another thing that was, I mean, not that that's cool, Philip. I'm sorry for your family.
But it's water under the bridge at this
Oh.
point.
Sorry, we're on
But-
the wrong side.
I just found out that when my grandfather emigrated from Ukraine in 1930, they set foot in North America in Halifax.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Pier 20. How long ago was that?
1930.
Oh, Pier 21 then.
Ukrainians or Volga
His name
Germans?
would be at Pier 21 in Halifax. They have all the people that landed there, the names of them.
Oh, cool. I might
Yeah.
have to go check that out sometime, see if it's there. I
Cool.
doubt. Did you say, sorry, John? I don't think I met you. John Gene? Is that how you say it?
Hi, yeah, Jean.
Yeah.
Were they
Jean.
Ukrainians or Volga Germans?
Ukrainian.
Ah, okay, cool. My family were Volga Germans, and they came to North America at about the same time.
Cool. Yeah. Technically, it was part of Poland at the time, but they were living on a plot of land that had been part of Austria, Hungary, and then part of Poland and part of Russia, and it was Lithuania a few hundred years ago, but they were ethnically Ukrainian. Yeah. Now it's part of Ukraine.
Yeah, no more Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Yes. I also, apparently my great grandfather fought in World War One with the Austrians against the Russians. So that's interesting.
That sounds like the most miserable possible place to be fighting. Anytime I hear about any war that Russia's been in, it's like, I don't want to. Like the Eastern Front of World War II was horrible.
Yeah, they don't
Every
really
time-
do stylish, cool wars. Like maybe the closest thing they came to was like the Crimean War or something.
Yeah. Any war
just
with
like-
Russia is just not going to go well for anybody.
Including
Especially the
Russians.
poor Russian peasants that get drafted
Yeah.
into the army.
Yeah,
It's like
I'd rather go to war in South Florida in the Keys, where they had the Conch Republic Revolution. You guys know about that story? They had a legit revolution in the Conch Republic, and it consisted of a group of people getting together and hitting a policeman over the head with a piece of bread. That was the fullness of their revolution.
The Florida Man Revolution.
That's what it is. Look it up. This is a real thing.
That sounds kind of Canadian if it was a baguette or something.
You know what would be a cool, stylish war? Would be like an island hopping campaign across the Caribbean that includes Florida. Like a bunch of air and sea stuff. Just like lots of drones and zipping around and doing things, and then no mud, no snow, no ice. Like just like speedboats everywhere.
Yeah, island hopping warfare involves mud. I mean, like maybe not now,
Yeah.
but like if you read anything about the Pacific Front, especially for the Marines, it was like get the
No
just
crazy Japanese
blast
people.
to pieces by artillery shells and then hike
Yeah.
through waist deep mud in these Pacific atolls, like
They did it in the Caribbean.
Okinawa. Oh man,
The
no, I
banana
mean
wars were not super pleasant either.
you hear these stories. It's like, yeah, we hiked 15 miles in 2 feet of mud, and you think, okay, yeah, and then you go and try to walk in 3 inches of mud. Not
Yeah,
happening.
no, none of that. That's
Just not happening.
And
the New Guinea campaign. That's not a good thing.
there's no going home to take a shower after that one, at least not for a few years.
Oh man. Y'all have a good night. I'm gonna clip out of here. So
All
Peace,
right.
Ted.
Good night,
See you,
Ted.
Ted.
Good to see you.
Nice talking to you.
Phil, I feel like I haven't gotten to talk to you in so long now because I don't do our Wednesday night estuaries anymore.
Yeah, it's been a while. Obviously, a lot to catch up on. Yeah. I don't know if here's the right place for that or not, but
Is there something
it's good to see your
interesting
face.
happening?
I don't. Well, with Corey, but I don't know if it's not my place to mention anything that
Okay.
he said in a.
Oh, yeah, we can
Yeah.
talk about that
I
later.
could say I gave my testimony again yesterday at the Sycamore retreat at the church, and it was the first time I went with. I mean, speaking in front of a group was the first time I went with no notes, no outline, no nothing, and I was kind of on a time limit. Like I had to be done by 11:45 before we broke for lunch, and I started around 25 or 25 after 11. So I went for 20 minutes, and it felt like a minute and a half. And there's not a whole lot I can remember of what I said. But everybody says I was smooth, and it felt good. But I don't know. That sounded kind of gross when I said it was smooth. But anyway, it felt right. It felt like the right things to be coming out of my mouth. So it was good. And it was so funny because for like usually I'll make out like an outline like 2 weeks before, and then I'll start filling it in, and then I'll put all the stuff in I shouldn't say just down on paper, and then I'll basically burn it or rip it up. So okay, that's not going to enter my mind now. I have a whole process for it. And every time I went to make something formal, it was like, nope. Am I being lazy or am I being told something? Because I can be lazy at times, but I'm a planner on this stuff, right? So I'm like, okay, guess the answer is nope on this. So anyway, that was interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The longer I've been ordained, the less I've used notes for preaching. So for the past couple of years, I go freehanding it on a Sunday mass.
Yeah. Do you ever forget what you say, Father? Like after a mass, kind of like the details? Or
After the day of, it's usually pretty fresh, but like by the next week, somebody will be like, "Oh, that point you made last week in your homily, Father, it was really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, what did I say?"
Just for my own ego, just feed it back to me. Talk slowly.
Yeah. What was that? Tell me, how did that improve your life?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just funny. It's just funny, you know. And the best is when somebody comes up and says, "Oh yeah, you made such a great point in your homily," and then they go and tell you something that you know for a fact you didn't like. That wasn't a point you were trying to make.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad God is talking to you while I'm talking.
Yeah. It's like I guess you did just need to grow in gratitude. Like that was something the Lord wanted to do, but that homily was not about gratitude at all.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I don't usually hear the same homily other people are hearing. I don't know why, but yeah, I have confused priests before, just like I did. Huh? Oh, God bless you.
Oh, you're muted, Father.
I'm going to get. Good night, guys.
Oh,
Hi, John.
pleasure to
Good
meet
to
you.
have you
Nice
on.
to meet
Tune
you.
in
Good
again.
to see you.
Awesome.
Help me with
Good to
more
meet you.
questions.
Okay. I'll bug you from time to time. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Nice to have somebody who isn't just rah Catholicism on here every once in a while. You know, not all the time, but just a little dose of an exterior perspective. You know?
Yeah.
Keep us from getting too insular. Although Mark's here all the time.
Yeah. Look, if Mark were to become a Christian, it would be Catholicism.
Sure. That doesn't.
He definitely does not let us stay insular. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience to what you were saying, Father Eric, so if Dr. Jim ever sees this, don't take it in the wrong way. But when he was doing his talk with T.S. Eliot, I was, oh man, Mark, Don't betray us.
Betraying us like all the others.
I hope he wears the eye patch when he goes ortho, bro.
Is that
But I'm really gonna poke up my eye.
Have you seen his navigating pattern videos, Corey, with the hat and the eye patch?
I saw him wearing the eye patch. I confess I have not watched any of the full videos.
I've watched like one of them. So.
But yeah, when Dr. Jim was talking, it was hitting me so hard that I was kind of like going in and out of like present consciousness of actually listening to him, because it kept striking things that I had already kind of been reflecting on. And it's a compliment though. It's not like it was boring to listen to him. It's like every time I came back to listen to him, he punched me in the face again with something amazing, and I had to recover for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, Bookie can sit down when that happens. When somebody's talking, you're just
stuck.
yeah.
Who has those recordings, by the way? Do we know
They are
when they're
on their
gonna come
way. We
Yes.
actually talked about that with Ted when he first jumped on. They are being processed and made pretty, and both Ted and I are quite eager to put them out there for general perusal and enjoyment. So, yeah, we just all have to practice a little bit of the virtue of patience, and the videos will show up, and yeah,
And then I
right,
can send them to my
virtues.
mom.
You could say, "Look, Mom, I'm not in a cult. All right."
Well, we were
Oh.
actually talking about how on her leadership team at work, because she works at a Catholic school, they each take turns like leading the prayer, and she did like praying with the Psalms when it was her turn, because she likes the Psalms even more than the Gospel some days. So then I was like, I can't wait for Father Eric's talk to be ready, because you need to watch it.
All right. Yeah. Well, I hope she benefits from it. Yeah. I was at a house party tonight, and I did a really bad job of explaining the convivium retreat. It just got worse and worse. And then finally I said, I just want somebody to talk about the intersection of Jordan Peterson and Christianity with.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, okay.
Why didn't you
Yeah,
just say
that's-
that?
Yeah, right. It's
It's
just
right
like,
there.
and it's like, oh yeah, and he just, yeah, that fits. That makes sense, Father Eric. That sounds like you.
It's not a commune, Mom. Seriously, when I went to Chino, it was like, man, it's like you're going to what again? And who's going to be there?
Oh yeah.
Now imagine you're flying across the country alone as a 25-year-old woman.
The
Yeah,
camp.
there's going to be this priest who's going to pick me up from the airport.
Oh, he's from North Dakota.
I'll admit there were some details of it that I told my mom about after it happened.
Staying at a campsite with a bunch of wild young men
And Sandy.
Yeah,
and Sandy.
and Sandy.
I would not want to mess with Sandy. I'm just saying right now. I wouldn't want to mess with you either, Emma, but I really wouldn't want to mess with Sandy.
Sandy pays
No,
attention.
that's fair. She
I
does.
When I had the privilege of having breakfast with her at LAX when we were flying out, like just waiting for our planes. Man, that woman, one-on-one, man, she listens. She's a beautiful soul.
She is.
She is.
Yeah. Awesome.
I really wish she could have made it to the convivium, because that would have been fantastic.
Her poem was beautiful too.
I hope I did it justice.
You did. I think you did. All right. Well, I'm gonna head to bed now, but I'm glad I got to see y'all.
Good
Yeah,
to see you,
good to
Corey.
see
I'll go back and catch up on the first half of the video.
Okay, very good. Take care, Corey.
See ya.
Love you,
Right.
buddy.
Love you too.
See ya.
Does anybody else have any burning desire to talk about anything?
We got what, 4 minutes left?
Yeah.
I can say for the first time yesterday, and I think I'm going to get this right. We were led in a St. Francis of Assisi like imagination prayer kind of thing. It was about imagine Zacchaeus in the tree, like kind of be like in the crowd when Zacchaeus is trying to get Jesus's attention, and then he gets up into the tree and Jesus's reaction, and it was with like classical music playing, and then the narrator saying, and now this happens, and now this happens. It was just beautiful. Like it was the first time I ever like closed my eyes and used like imagination like that, and it was something else. So
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a venerable tradition in the church. I've never heard it associated with St. Francis of Assisi, though.
maybe I'm wrong on that. So I mean,
I think it's
anything I say about
often,
that.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's often associated with Saint Ignatius. I don't
that
know.
that could be correct.
I don't know.
Yeah, yes, most commonly associated with St. Ignatius, but it predated him.
Yeah.
He didn't make it up on his own, and I think that was something that even the Desert Fathers had talked about. And I have a YouTube video that focuses on that. The second of my parish mission talks, "Unlock Your Baptism," goes a fair bit into the imaginative prayer.
Oh, that's cool.
So anyway, yeah, and Zacchaeus, that'd be a good story for it too. There's a lot of action that you can
Yeah.
paint the scene with, and the Lord can use.
Hmm.
But it isn't necessarily for everybody. So
Yeah.
If you don't have much of an imagination, something better might work out for you.
Yeah, she said
Until
that.
you read more poetry and develop a better imagination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you didn't get left alone tonight, Father Eric. People came.
Appreciate it. I was getting worried. It was going to be 2 hours of just rambling into the microphone alone. But rambling into the microphone with friends, now that's much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I got an early day tomorrow, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and call it. But thanks for signing on. Happy Sunday, and God bless you all.
Happy Sunday. Thanks for hosting, as always.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Father. See
Peace.
you. Bye-bye.